Well, good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 1st, and we are beginning our issues meeting for the day. I am Commissioner Martha Schrader, and Chair Smith is out for the time being, so I will be running the meeting today. And Nancy is going to be helping me with the rest of our wonderful staff. And we're going to be starting updates. And we're going to first convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County, where Nancy, tell me what presentation we're going to have.
Yes, good morning, Chair Schrader. So yes, I'm filling in today for our County Administrator, Gary Schmidt, who is out as well. And I do want to say that we do have all commissioners here except for Chair Smith, as what was mentioned earlier. So first up, we do have the Housing Authority, and we have a draft property tax exemption policy. And if we could have Devin come in, please, Shannon, for that presentation.
Okay.
So, all right, Devin, if you can please give us your presentation.
Sure. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Devin Ellen, Director of Housing Development with the Housing Authority. And I'm here today to start the conversation around creating a tax exemption policy to support affordable housing projects in Clackamas County. As outlined in my memo, the state law allows affordable apartment communities owned by Oregon housing authorities to receive a property tax exemption so long as the housing is rented to low-income households, so 80% AMI and below. This exemption exists even when a housing authority has an extremely limited role in the property. So, 0.01% ownership stake, no fiduciary responsibilities or role in daily operations. And as we are all collectively working on getting more affordable units online, property tax exemptions provide an effective tool which lessens the demand for other limited and highly competitive resources. When available, property tax exemptions increase the amount of debt an affordable property can sustainably take on, and thereby decreasing the demand for other funding sources. Property tax exemptions are especially useful for projects being developed outside the urban growth boundary, where resources like the regional housing bond and supportive housing services resources are not available. HAC is regularly approached by developers wanting to partner in order to receive tax relief. Most recently, the developers working on a 60-unit affordable development in Malala reached out. HAC is supporting this project with project-based Section 8 rental vouchers to support 8 units, serving households at 30% AMI and below. And with escalating construction pricing and now interest rates, the developer relayed that they need property tax exemption or pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes, in order to make their development pencil. This is a really important project that would provide greatly needed affordable housing to our rural communities. And I hope to bring their specific proposal to issues for your consideration on March 15th. All that to say, these frequent requests highlight the need to have a policy in place around property tax exemption. With the help of HAC's outside counsel, I drafted the property tax exemption policy you received based on policies in place at other Oregon housing authorities, including Salem, Marion County, and Home Forward. So I just see this as a starting point for discussion and would love to answer any questions or hear your comments.
So colleagues, do you have any comments or questions at this point? Nancy, I'm assuming Devin is seeking today just a nod, go ahead too.
I believe Devin just is talking, do we want them to continue to work on this project and having that consensus? And I think we have Mark Scholl up first.
Yes.
Yes. How would this affect rental prices in exempt properties? What assurance do we have if we approve this exemption policy that when it's applied to a property, our people are going to be seeing the effects of it in a reduced rental rate?
That's a great question. So these property tax exemptions would only go to properties that have a restrictive covenant attached to them. So they receive low-income housing tax credits, which restricts their rents at 80% AMI and below, typically lower than that at 60%.
Okay, so what you're saying is that there's a procedure in place already that won't be necessarily administered by the county to ensure that these tax exempt properties do in fact honor the lower rental rates.
Yes, that's correct. And the exemption would only stay in place as long as the unit is affordable.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right, I know Commissioner Fisher, you had your hand up. And Nancy, you're gonna have to help me with the hands again, because I'm finding out, I have the full,
Okay.
group. I'm not left hand.
Okay, yeah, first, in my apologies, we do have Commissioner Leestra in here as well today. I'm so sorry, did not mention that earlier. So thank you, Commissioner Leestra, for coming in. So Commissioner Savas had his hand up first.
Okay, let's go, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I believe it would be based on a conversation we had a couple of years ago when we, or several, actually three years ago or so, when we did the Rosewood Station project. I believe one of the comments that Chair Bernard had made at the time was he wished he had more information prior to making that decision. And so I really think that we really need to examine the math more explicitly. The challenge is that if a project is mostly market rate rents and there's a portion of low income, can the tax exemption apply only to that portion, or can it apply to the whole project? And the answer back then was no. The tax exemption applies to everything. So frankly, I really think that looking at the math and asking the questions about the Rosewood Station would serve as a model where we already gave that tax exemption. And I had also heard, following the completion of Rosewood Station, some other concerns that, geez, I wish I would have known that again, or wow, we really don't have that much leverage thereafter for that entire 60-year period. So I would like to make sure that the math is, very clear, and also, knowing whether or not the tax exemption applies to all the other taxing districts. I think that's an important thing because that does impact public safety. And anyhow, I think the math's important, and doing the long-range forecasting on the needs for the services that the general fund pays for that would otherwise not be receiving the funds for, but where the needs are. And we've heard explicitly from a lot of public safety agencies, county, that are funded by the county general fund, that sometimes these facilities require an inordinate amount of their efforts and certain calls for service. So I think we need to strike that balance and understand what the math says. Thank you.
Yep. Can I respond to that?
Oh, absolutely.
I think you brought up some great points. So, this is why I think that we need to have policy in place to explore all of these things that you just discussed. In the memo, we talk about mixed income housing, where the non-subsidized housing or non-restricted housing would pay a pilot. And so we would negotiate that amount. Rosewood, for example, so I ran some numbers. I reached out to the assessors and they provided me some information about that project. Just to give you an example, so Rosewood Station is 212 units. All of those units are restricted as affordable housing below 60% AMI. And the assessors estimated that if a property tax exemption was not given, they would pay an annual property tax of $405,000 roughly. With the portion going to Clackamas County, so 17 cents and 82 $17.82 is the portion of $1 that goes to Clackamas County. So for the case of Rosewood Station, it would be about $72,000 a year. And then when you consider that per unit, the county subsidy per unit would be $340 a year. So that, these numbers will vary project by project based on location and number of units, but that kind of gives you a sense of the subsidy that we would be providing per unit.
I just love to see the math. That's really what I'm getting at. So did you meant 340,000? How can $340 be 17% of 400,000?
Well, if you multiply it by the number of units, which is 212 total, you get to 72,000, which is the portion that Clackamas County would pay.
Oh, you're talking about a per unit. I'm
Yeah.
talking about, so we're mixing apples and oranges. I thought there was some market rate homes that were in the 80% percentile at Rosewood Station.
No.
It's all 60%. Commissioner Savas, are you done? Any other?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think Commissioner Fisher, if I'm not mistaken, is up. Okay, thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, so Deb and I support us moving forward and developing a policy. And I do think that Commissioner Savas is really on to a really good point of us understanding the math on any affordable housing. I had the wonderful opportunity with Anna Geller to sit with her and really learn how these projects are put together. And sadly, we have lost Anna. She passed away not too long ago. But that education of what it costs and all of the transaction costs, which are very expensive, that increase the cost per unit. So having all tools on the table to make these projects work, I think is very, very important. I do know that with some federal changes, the low-income tax credits can be more flexible to allow those in mixed income types of situations. So would that also be possible within our policy to do property tax exemption for part of a development, possibly within this policy?
Yeah, so the new tax credit laws, you can do mixed income up to 80% AMI, and that would still fall under the tax exemption policy for the housing authorities. So yes, and then I guess as far as a mixed income that included market rate units, there would be the option of the developer paying a pilot back to the county.
What is a pilot?
It's a payment in lieu of taxes. Okay. So basically they kind of pay the difference to the county of what they would be paying if they didn't have an exemption in place. And all of these would property tax exemptions would come to the board for approval, so we could scrutinize all the numbers on a case-by-case basis. It's really difficult to estimate an overall impact without looking at each project. But I think that this is a really important tool. And one way that we could consider this is, just having this policy in place for properties outside the urban growth boundary. Although I do think there is a really good argument to have it countywide.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm all in favor of us moving forward with the policy.
I want to say, Commissioner Shull or any other commissioner have any other comments to make?
Yeah. Commissioner Shull has his hands up.
All right. Yeah.
Devin, do you have a ballpark estimate on what the total cost of this would be? I mean, how many properties out there do you think are going to take advantage of this? If we look at the $340 per unit in reduced property taxes, That's cheap in my mind compared to what we're paying for rental assistance these days. And the final thing, Devin, you don't need to answer it now, but as this program becomes more popular, what's going to be the impact on staff requirements and staff expenses to administer the exemption policy? You don't need to answer that today, Devin, but something to think about. Thank you.
Okay, so Devin, you'll get back to Commissioner Shull with that. Commissioner Savas, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I appreciate Commissioner Fisher bringing up Anna Geller. Really respected her. Sorry that she had passed. She was a great resource for us. I think it's worthy of noting that when this Rosewood station came up and the tax exemption came up, she was critical of it, and she really advocated for, and currently really across the street from Rosewood Station, by her, she's been a fantastic supporter of affordable housing. But there's under construction her own project that she initiated over there without a tax exemption. So she really felt, and she understood the math, and we try to advocate for that. And again, I believe there are other ways and percentages and ways of approaching this that work out for it's a win-win. And again, I think we also need to involve our taxing districts, everyone involved in this, because they will be impacted.
Thank you for that comment. So I'd like to just say a few words. I really want to thank Evan for all her hard work. I'm particularly interested in this because it appears as if it will help us get some more affordable housing out in our rural areas. I'm pleased to know that one of the developers wants to do units in Malala. I've also heard that there's an interest in getting some units out in Estacada. So even just because of that, I think this is a really good policy that we need to take a look at. And hopefully, finally, after all the work is done, we can give thumbs up to the final draft. But at this point in time, my understanding is we're telling Evan that to go forward and do good work and keep working on this policy until which time we will come back as a board and do a yay or nay. Am I correct, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody thumbs up? Okay, I see head nods.
Yeah, just the math, and also I was thinking about it. We should probably involve the sheriff as well.
Okay.
Malala is an area where the residents and the mayor and the council have felt that response times are very low out of Malala, and perhaps we should get the sheriff involved there as well.
So with the advice that we're giving so far from the commission, Evan, you got all that down, right? All righty. Any other commissioner, anything I'm missing? Yes, Nancy, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. All right. I want to thank Ann for coming today. And I believe at this point, we can adjourn as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. And thank you, Evan. Go forth.
Thank you, Devin.
Yep.
All
Devin.
right.
Okay, now I would like to convene as the Board of County Commissioners. And Nancy, what I have up first is the consent agenda review.
Yes, thank you, Chair Schrader. So we'll get that started. So first we'll bring in Rod for Health, Housing, and Human Services. He is our director there. So we can bring Rod in. So while we're bringing him in, so this is the approval of Amendment Number 5 to the Intergovernmental Agreement with the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for operation as a local public health authority for Clackamas County. The amendment adds $131,887.50, bringing the contract not to exceed the value of $10,636,087.64. Funding is provided by the state of Oregon and no county general funds are involved. Rod?
Yes, funding through this amendment allows Clackamas County Public Health Division to provide public health related services to Clackamas County residents, such as HIV prevention services, tobacco prevention and education, and women, infants, and children's, known as the WIC program, and the school-based health centers. So this is a revenue contract, and as mentioned before, no county general funds are involved.
Great. Any questions, colleagues? Any hands up? Nancy?
No hands up.
Let's just keep moving.
right, thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
So next we have community corrections, but I don't see anyone immediately from community corrections here.
Well, can we move on to,
Yeah, I was just want to make sure if anyone's community is representing community corrections, could you raise your hand so we could bring you over? All right, we'll move on. We'll come back to that just to be sure. Oh, Jeff Munns. Yes. Okay, so we'll bring Jeff Munns in to talk about the community corrections. So while Jeff's being brought over, this is approval of a lease amendment and extension with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission for the Community Corrections Facility at 9000 Southeast McBroad Avenue at Milwaukee, Oregon. This amendment extends the term of the lease on a month-to-month basis with termination date of June 30, 2025 at the cost of $1 annual rent funded by county general funds. Jeff.
Yes, thank you. This is an extension of the lease that began in 1992 for the residential services component of community corrections programs located next to the OLCC property there in Milwaukee. OLCC is in the process of actually selling that property, and so we were working with them. This is something we brought to the board in the past on a partition and then an acceptance of that property from OLCC. So that process is ongoing, and in the meantime, we're just extending the lease for an additional 3 years, and it would terminate once the property is transferred to the county. But this is just to keep this lease going while we were in that process. It doesn't change anything about the terms other than more time.
okay? Any questions, colleagues?
I wish my rent was $1 a year.
I'd like to say we're great negotiators, but it's basically, we've been working with LCC for a long time. Thank you.
So do I, quite frankly. All right, Nancy, what's up next?
All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, next we have Business and Community Services, and we have Sarah Ekman, who will be brought over. She was our interim director there. So this is the approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Gladstone for Gladstone Library site ground lease. Total cost, excuse me, is $1 per year funded by Library District and City of Gladstone funds. No county general funds are involved. Sarah. We don't have Sarah.
I'm having a technical difficulty in
Oh.
bringing her over. Sorry,
She's-
just one moment.
She's in limbo. There we go. All right, Sarah, can you hear us? Sarah, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Okay.
Well, we could,
Oh,
There she is.
Wonderful.
there
Okay.
you are. Thank you, Sarah.
Good morning, commissioners. We have another land lease at the rate of $1 per year. So this is to lease the space from the city of Gladstone that the new Gladstone Library will be built on. And it mentions in your packet, this was a commitment made in the library construction and operation IGA that was previously signed for the city to lease us the land for $1 per year for the construction of the library. And it remains in force as long as the county operates the Gladstone Public Library under the agreement.
all right. Any questions? Everybody head nod? All right, Nancy.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Next is county administration, and I will be covering this. And we also have Kathy Rasted here that might be able to answer questions if there are any. Approval of a statutory warranty deed with the Clackamas County Historical Society regarding a small portion of the site of the Museum of the Oregon Territory. The total cost is $1 funded through budgeted county funds. And this is a warranty deed, statutory warranty deed where we are there is land right next to the facility for the museum. And this would just be bringing all of that land together underneath the county commissioner or the county, Clackamas County.
Okay, head nods, everyone.
Okay,
We're good with that, right?
All
Let's
right.
move to county council, please.
all right, county council. We have Kathy Ressler here for that. So approval of a board order denying file Z0208-21-CP, a comprehensive plan amendment proposed by Mission Teens Incorporated, Northwest Bible Training Center. Kathleen?
I actually have Nate Boderman here to answer any questions on this because I know nothing about this.
All right, Nate.
All right. Let me get my screen oriented here. Okay, so this item is to adopt an order of denial related to an application for a comprehensive plan change proposed by Mission Teens and Northwest Bible Training Center on property located at 23172 South Blum Road. So the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on November 8, 2021 and voted 6-2 to recommend that this board deny the amendments that were proposed. Then you'll probably recall holding a public hearing on this matter on December 8th, 2021 and the continuation on January 26th, 2022, at which time you voted 3-2 in favor of denying the application as recommended by Planning Commission and staff. So then the board directed staff to prepare the findings and to draft an order finalizing this decision. So those findings and order have been drafted, are now being submitted for approval on the consent agenda. Happy to answer any questions you might have about this particular item.
Any question? Oh, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, Chair Schrader, thank you. First of all, if we could correct the record, the vote was 3-1. I presume because I was absent that day. And so on the second hearing, I believe I was absent. So the day of denial, my point here is that can we actually separate that from the consent agenda item? Because I feel it's probably proper that because I was absent, I did not participate in the latter part of the deliberations. I was not present on January 26th. It might be more proper for me to recuse myself.
I have no problem with that, colleagues.
Yeah.
So we can make that so? All right.
Thank you.
Great.
We're good. We'll separate that out, and Paul, you will have an opportunity to talk about that. Okay, I have one last thing, which is the sheriff. Is that?
We have something else on county council. We have two more items. Sorry.
Sorry.
We have another county council, which is approval of board order previously approved comprehensive plan amendment and zone map amendment proposed by Melva Murphy, file number Z0079-21-CP and Z0080-21-ZAP. Kathleen, are you covering that one, or is that Nate?
I'll take this one as well.
Nate.
So this item is to adopt an order of approval related to an application for a comp plan and zone change proposal by Melva Murphy on property located in the Damascus area on Southeast Borges Road. So specifically, this order will include a comprehensive plan amendment to change the zoning or change the comprehensive plan, to a low density residential designation and a zone change to future urban 10-acre. Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on August 9th, 2021 and voted 8-0 to recommend that this board deny the amendments. The board then held a public hearing on September 15th, 2021, several months back, and voted at that time 3-2 in favor of approving the application. So the board then directed staff to prepare the findings and to draft an order to finalize this decision. So you may recall that this was a difficult decision and Metro was the one party that appeared in opposition. So I did want to note that we've taken several months here to bring the findings and the order to you because during that time we've worked with Metro to address some of their concerns associated with this particular application and want to really just thank them specifically for their cooperation in working with us on this matter to avoid potential appeal on this. So that finding and the order document resulting from the board's prior oral decision have been drafted and are now being submitted again for your approval on the consent agenda.
Okay. Any questions, colleagues?
We have Commissioner Fisher with her hand up.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yes, I'm not sure how we want to do this. I do want to put on the record why I think this is a bad idea because this is area that has not been annexed in, and I get concerned about just ad hoc development happening without comprehensive planning, concept planning. There was a reason why the Planning Commission voted all in favor of no on this. And it really does concern me that this is moving forward. So I don't know, we just pull it from consent. I'll make those comments. What do we do, Vice Chair?
I think pulling it to make those comments is perfectly fine. If
Okay.
that's what you choose to do, and I'm assuming commissioners be okay with that? All right. Okay.
So
be it.
we'll pull that item.
And it's a discussion item then.
Okay.
Right.
Ccso is next. So if we can bring in Nancy Artman, please.
Oh, Commissioner Savas was raising his hand.
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know
so
if anybody
sorry.
Saw that.
I apologize. Commissioner Savas.
I'm sorry about that. I just realized, I'm not sure if Commissioner Smith will be here on Thursday, but in case I don't believe that carried. I can't remember what the vote was, but I would just be concerned if that was a time sensitive thing on the County Council agenda item 2, or if we should wait till next week when there's the full commission in place, if there's a question of votes.
I'll just note that it's not time sensitive in the sense that we're not running up against a deadline. So if this needs to get set over, that's not an issue. But again, this vote, you are on the record as either voting yea or nay on the merits of the decision. What we're really bringing to you is the form of order and findings. And so so if you have questions about the form or the justification supporting your decision, we can address those at the time. But what we've tried to do through those materials is to clarify who voted yes, who voted no. And so that's clearly stated on the record already.
So Nate, if I'm hearing you correctly, then we could have it as a discussion item on issues next week.
If that's what the board would prefer to do.
Is that what the board would like to do?
I'm okay with that. That's what the board prefers.
Yeah, it might be worthy, to make sure that everyone who made that decision back then is present for conversation on this topic.
Okay, Commissioner Schull.
Yes, so in September, we did discuss this, we did vote on it. So I'm comfortable for this going on the consent agenda, but if you want to talk about it one more time, okay.
So do I see head nods that we're going to talk about it one more time?
Commissioner Fisher has her hand up as well.
Okay.
Chair Schrader.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about it one more time. I just have really strong views regarding planning in a systematic and comprehensive way. This was a one-off, and I just want to make those comments for the record. You guys already voted for it. You're going to approve it. I can be a no vote on the consent agenda item moving forward. We can just pull it and deal with it separately.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to make sure I'm hearing correctly. So we're going to leave it on consent agenda this week, correct?
Well, I'm not sure if it'll pass because I believe Commissioner Savas was a no vote as well. So he may vote no. So it might be 2-2.
It would need to be on consent next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the point. You probably have a 2-2 and then it would be mute. So let's go ahead and put it.
I'm sorry, point of order. I'm not sure whether we're pausing about counting the votes before we get to the meeting. Doesn't it need to go? Kathleen, could you help me?
They've already approved this. What would be before you now is the order and, I'm sorry, Nate, what was the other item?
The findings justifying the decision.
The findings.
So you've made the decision in a public session already. So now you're just making a decision about the findings and the order. Whether you do that on consent agenda or not is up to you, but that's the decision that's left for you.
Okay. So my question is, do we want to have it on this Thursday or wait until next week until Chair Smith is here? I can go either way.
Yeah, I think it's wise to put it on next week's.
All right, do that then. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for helping to clarify, staff. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay. Now I think we're ready for CCSO.
Yes.
All right. If we can bring over Nancy Artman, please. So we have here approval of amendment number 1 to the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Wilsonville for law enforcement services. This amendment adds $595,393.65 for a 3-year pilot program providing a mental health service professional to support law enforcement with crisis response. The City of Wilsonville is billed monthly for actual costs related to the service, funded by the City of Wilsonville. No county general funds are involved. Nancy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nancy Kathleen. As Nancy stated, we are seeking your approval to place an amendment on the consent agenda for this week. This would add a mental health services professional to partner with the City of Wilsonville Police. It is a pilot project for 3 years. We developed the scope of work for this position in partnership with H3S Behavioral Health. And this would amend the standing IGA, which was entered into in 2009.
Any questions, colleagues? Yes, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I spoke to the mayor a couple times about this. I really appreciate the fact that the City of Wilsonville has stepped up and is supporting this financially. So it's not going to be supported by the general fund of the county, and I really like the idea of it being a pilot project. And I'm hoping that if there's other cities who want to have similar supportive services in this regard, that would be great. The discussion, just more commentary. I'm perfectly fine to put it on the agenda, but I do want to just take this moment to just put some emphasis on a growing desire and need and recognition of the need for behavioral health services, or a facility for behavioral health services that is available to law enforcement 24/7. I think that's really key. I think this will be a great pilot project, and I just want to again emphasize the need for more facilities. Oregon is at the bottom in the nation on behavioral health services and facilities in the country. So we can do a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Colleagues, any other comments? Be good to go.
Yeah, Commissioner Fisher has her hand up.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, so Nancy, I just want to thank you for being here, and I am so supportive of integrating our behavioral health with public safety. This is a really good move forward, and also the extra resources that probably our whole commission, we should at some point learn about just mobile crisis, how it's all structured, what the changes are, how we're expanding, how it's different regarding when there's a public safety issue, and which is for this situation, or when there is mobile crisis teams going out and helping people with behavioral health challenges. And a lot is happening. And unfortunately, I was just thinking about this. We are responsible for so much as this board of county commissioners and with all of our districts. So we often don't have the time to really lean in on the issues of the day that are so important for us. But this is one that is really important. I really applaud Wilsonville in partnership with our sheriff's office, and this is really great. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher, for your support, and I'm sure that our leadership team would love to meet with you to bring you up to speed on what is happening in this area.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make one comment too, Nancy, and everyone. My daughter is a prosecutor in Middlesex County in Boston, and we had a pretty robust conversation about the models that they are using with their public safety folks out there in Massachusetts. And this has kind of jogged my memory as I was talking to her about getting the contacts for that model, because evidently it really is integrating behavioral health response with public safety response, and it's been an extremely successful program and is getting people to the right place rather than going to jail or not getting what they need. It really is moving them into the appropriate spot where they can get the help they need to be well and to be safe. So I'll bring that up. I'll have a conversation with my daughter tonight, and I'll make sure I get that information to everybody. So thanks.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. And I'd like to remind the board that you did approve a grant that we received for behavioral health clinician that will be specific to the sheriff's office. So we're going to enhance that team as well. So it is something that we are definitely working on in-house along with our partners out in the cities.
Okay. Thank you so much. for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay,
All
Nancy.
right. Yeah, that's the end of our consent agenda. I just want to confirm that we will have all items this week on the consent agenda except for number 2 under county council. Is that correct, Chair?
That's,
Okay, thank you.
All right. I got it.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have Dave and Duke.
Yes.
The Clackamas Broadband Exchange ARPA update.
Yes. So bring Dave and Duke over.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Dave.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave DeVore from Tech Services and Duke Dexter, our illustrious CBX project manager. As always, it's a pleasure to be here today to talk about some of the great things that the ARPA grant's doing for the county. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, we came to the board about the status of our phase 1, where we are right now, and the proposal for a phase 2. Several questions came out of that discussion that we were requested to come back and update you all on. One of the questions was the role of CBX in providing the services to these folks that we're connecting. There was a concern about whether or not we were doing the ISP. I just want to assure everyone that we are not ISP providers. Per the board approved project plan, we will not be doing ISP service. We just make sure that the connection to the home is in place. Our ISP partners, which we have several, will actually be doing all that work to support and providing those services. So that's it's turned out to be a really great model for everybody. The other question that came up was, what is the price point to where we want to be comfortably on a home cost for connecting with folks? Namely, the question that came up was on the Montano Road. And so we were asked to provide what it would look like if we did not have that option in our phase 2. And so we included today a phase 2 option with and without Montano Road, and what it would look like from a cost for doing phase 2, and what the remaining funds would be to look at for other options. So don't know if that's something we can bring up. I think you all have access to that, but Duke, did you want to go over what that really means as far as numbers?
Well, obviously on the 2 different lists, one with the Boitano, one without. Right now, we're estimating the Boitano area to cost approximately $650,000, serve 78 individuals or will pass 78 home sites. So with it, that would put us at a budget of roughly $8.6 million, and without roughly $8 million. And we could simply slide it down to a phase 3 or an alternate, just kind of keep that as an option somewhere down the road as we progress through our ARPA projects. But, I just kind of want to remind everybody that when we're looking at these projects, we're looking to place an infrastructure that will be there and serving this area for 20 to 30 years from today and into the future. And so not only would these communication needs be met for distance learning, remote work, telehealth today, it will still be providing it, whatever those needs might be 20 to 30 years from now. So you guys see the numbers, and then we can kind of go from there if you have any questions.
Are there any questions, colleagues? Commissioner Savas, you have your hand up. And then if anyone else.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Schrader. I really thought about our last discussion when this came up here a couple, 3 weeks ago. And I want to just share with you a little bit of mathematical thought process. If you take, I know that Duke just mentioned 22 to 30 years, but if you just take the 20 years times 12 months and divide that into the highest number per household of $8,500, I think you'll find out that it comes out to about $30 a month, which is really pretty darn affordable. And for a company, a private sector company, and I have one of my cousins has a fiber optic company in Southern California. That's a small cost. I actually talked with him, and this is not an uncommon cost. So as I thought about it and had a greater conversation with this family member of mine, it became apparent to me that perhaps to capitalize on this once in a lifetime opportunity of these ARPA dollars, and knowing we would be handing off the delivery of services to a private provider, that if there was an agreement in place that we could recapture some of those ARPA dollars, let's just say $10 of the 30 or $15 of the 30, and put that aside in a fund to reinvest for future expansion of broadband in a like situation, that might be something that could help stretch these ARPA dollars long into the future for the benefit of those other areas that are underserved today, or have no service as of today. So I'm supportive of the package as is, but I would just implore everyone to just do the math. And realize that it's actually a small cost per month, and that maybe there's a way of capturing those dollars. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Schull, and then I guess Commissioner Fisher.
Yes. Dave and Duke, thanks a lot for stripping out those ultra high cost per homes on your initial alternate list. I remember those got up to 32,000 per house, 57,000 per house. This current sheet you have before us today at 8,600,000 and change, it looks a lot better to me. The only line that jumps out as concern is of course Boitano Road at $8,400 plus per house, and the mean on both phases is actually under 4,000 because you have per house, because you got one group in there way down to 712. If we were to strip out Boitano Road and save that 658,000, that brings us down to 8 million. Now we said you could use 10 million, up to 10 million ARPA dollars, but if Boitano was stripped out, that would leave $2 million that could be brought back to ARPA, the ARPA pot, for reconsideration and redistribution. So I like the other commissioners to at least think about that. Paul Savas made a point. Yes, if you strip that down over 20, 30 years, the cost looks more reasonable. But we're talking about right now in March 1st, 2022, and that $2 million savings back to ARPA would give us the ability to look at other expenses, other needs out there. Just something to think about, folks. Thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner Fisher, have you got any comments?
Yeah, thank you. I thank you for these little graphs. It's really good. I love Commissioner Schrader and I were in Washington, D.C., and we did not participate in the first discussion. I think I have to go back and watch that because I may be missing some pieces because this is the second part of the discussion. So I apologize for that, but I really appreciated what Commissioner Savas said about looking to recapture anything from our ARPA dollars for the future. I think we should be doing that with really all of our ARPA allocations. If there's other funding sources, if we're able to enhance this with infrastructure dollars from the federal government, and always looking for other sources of income, but really prioritizing getting, our goal of broadband out to our communities. And I don't know, I would have loved a map with this. Maybe there was a map in the first, I don't know, I'm looking to Dave or to Duke to let me know.
There wasn't one in the package where we could definitely get you one.
Yeah, because when I went out on my tours with folks from the CPOs, I really got a good education about what areas out there are internet dead zones, I guess, that didn't have access. And I'm very much in support of getting access across our county for internet. It really is what we need to do for the future, for sure. So thank you.
And as Commissioner Fisher said, we were at the National Association of Counties Conference, where broadband is a huge discussion item because counties across this nation are using tens of millions of dollars of their ARPA dollars to get this important utility out to their citizens. So my question is, at this point, are we making a decision, yes or no, to keep Botano or take it out? Is that where we are with this? Nancy, help me out here.
A couple things. So we do have Commissioner Savas, who does have his hand up.
Right, okay.
And then, yes, there's not really a decision point here. One of the things I would suggest is that, we not take the money out, that there could be some cost fluctuations also as we go down. But yes, we can ask the Dave and Duke to say, yes, can you take them out, for now, and then we'll see how things and costs go down the line. But yes, Commissioner Savas does have his hand up.
Here we are with that. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. One thing I forgot to mention, and so I would first of all want to just support continuing as Nancy kind of recommended with the allocation, and I would advocate for continuing on with Botano Road properties as well. But the part I wanted to add is that I just quickly did the math on 30 years, which I didn't do before, and it's actually about $22 a month. But what I really wanted to say was, there are some folks in these rural areas that would gladly pay $50 a month just to get the service out there. Additional, would happily pay it just to have the internet service. So it occurs to me that we have LIDs, which stands for local improvement districts. There might be opportunities to do these partnerships with maybe a community that is remote that could use that, to where we could stretch that out over a 30-year period or a 20-year period and do something that helps bridge that gap and that inequity. But all in all, as I sit on the rural caucus of NACO, when I do attend there, I didn't attend this year, but as I have in the past, rural broadband has come up year after year after year, and the cost out there is as high, if not way higher, because there are far bigger properties that are far more remote, and to run fiber optic out over hundreds of miles across the countryside with very little population, it's extremely expensive. This I won't say it's a bargain. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as expensive as some other areas of this country.
All right, thank you for that. So I want some head nods. I do think that you ought to keep money in the ARPA pot for broadband, move ahead. And if you have an opportunity to include the additional fiber, that's where the money should go. That would be my bias as well. And again, largely because of what I'm seeing across the nation, talking to our school districts, knowing that we have youngsters in various spots that have suffered through COVID because they've not had adequate access to online learning. So I want to tell you to go forth and do good work, unless, Nancy, there's something else we need to discuss or say here right now.
I don't think so. We do have Dave DeVore, who has his hand up, and we'll have him give his comments, but it sounds like we're going to leave the money in broadband, just continue the work, and obviously we will still have Dave and Duke come back with check-ins.
Okay.
Okay, Dave?
That was partly my point, was we were definitely coming back both on what the stats phase 2, any changes in costs, because obviously one of our concerns is cost escalation due to shortages that's occurring and so forth. But once we get farther into the project and we have a better idea of what funding's left over, we can then go back and look for what's left of the low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
I apologize. I kind of confused the report last time, seeing all those different numbers. Phase 3 is not under consideration at this point. We would like to get through most of phase 2, come back and say, here's what money's left. What did the other ISPs do? What other funding sources panned out, did not pan out? And then come back and say, here's some options to the board. And then we can actually decide, you can decide where you want to go with phase 3.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nancy. Anybody, any other folks? All right.
Commissioner Schull has something real quick, he says.
Yeah, a point of concern, Dave. How long is it going to take for you to execute through phase 2? We will need to know that a ballpark, because of the remaining ARPA dollar issue and the timeline to expend those dollars? Do you have an idea?
I think Duke could probably give us a pretty good idea of when we would have a cost estimation that would be pretty accurate.
Yes, thank you. So for actual construction, so what we would look at doing for phase 2, if we're allowed to move forward, is we would hire the engineering and design firms to start. These are larger areas. You can see kind of larger projects, several of them obviously millions of dollars. And I wouldn't expect construction, wouldn't start by the end of this year. So it will take design and engineering the rest of this year to kind of come up with those plans with make ready. Actual construction may not start until like January of 23.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All righty, great. Any other questions? Seeing none, let's move on, Nancy, to Supportive Housing Services Financial Update. And I do have a question for you, Nancy. Is this one where we will need to make a decision today? I'm assuming it is.
This is one where you would probably make a decision today as we talk about the conversation and the money from Metro. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to bring in Rod Cook and Vahid Brown, please.
Okay, would you like me to get started?
Yes,
Yes,
thank you,
Rod.
Rodney. Yeah.
So we're here today to talk about, this was originally a February 8th memo, but I think the document you have may be dated February 22nd. But anyway, it's regarding a financial update on the Supportive Housing Services funds received to date and to provide you with any additional information you may need to move forward with requesting an additional $5 million advance from Metro. The additional $5 million will give county the capacity to procure additional services, build our infrastructure to meet the board-approved local implementation plan. And we have brought up Vahid Brown is with us today. He's our resident expert on this issue, and he's going to walk us through the memo and answer any additional questions you might have for us today. So Vahid.
Thank you, Rod. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Vahid Brown, the Supportive Housing Services Program Manager. As Rod said, this issue had come before the board a few weeks ago on an update on the financials for SHS expenditures and forecasted obligations for contracted services. We were asked to kind of come back following the discussion of that meeting with some updates on what an additional $5 million advance would enable our team to accomplish in terms of the goals in the local implementation plan. So the memo in your packet includes, in that first figure, is an update of our estimates of what additional contracted services, given a $5 million advance, would allow us to advance to do in terms of moving forward on goals for serving households experiencing homelessness in Clackamas County with a variety of different types of services. Many of those goal areas, including some of the most critical ones, long-term rent assistance and supportive services case management. That's the permanent supportive housing piece that is, as you know, the solution to chronic homelessness. Those are goal areas where we would meet or exceed the year one goal outlined in the LIP. We would also be on track to meet our goals for emergency shelter and outreach. So we would be able to invest in a significant number of new outreach programs to connect people experiencing homelessness, unsheltered homelessness in the county, to our programs and services. That's delineated in the first table. It shows what we estimate, given our formulas for costs for associated services, we would be able to put into contracts. We also did give a little background in the memo about the Tri-County Regional request for programmatic qualifications, which has closed and will be announced next week. The pool of qualified providers. So this is a time sort of specific or time sensitive consideration for you all to think about. As soon as that request for programmatic qualifications is concluded and the pool is released or announced, all three counties will be wanting to move immediately into contracting with those agencies. So the $5 million advance would affect our contracting program offers as described in that first table, in the sense of goal areas that we would be seeking to make progress. The next two tables in the memo are simply updates of the initial expenditures report that we provided in early February. That first report that we gave to you did not include February's disbursement of tax revenue to Clackamas. And those two new tables that showing the finance kind of balance sheet, and then the bar graph showing revenues versus projections have been updated to reflect February's revenues. And as Rod said, we're happy to answer any questions related to this discussion.
Thank you, Fahid. And I'm just going to make one comment. This has been on our table for a very long time. I believe it's time to move forward with this. I think we are committed to helping folks in this county who are suffering. It's been a high priority, I think, for every single commissioner. And I want to thank you for your work, Fahid and Rod, for all the work you've done. My understanding is Nancy, I'm going to ask you a question. We are beginning to see the revenue increase up to about 300,000 or so a month. But yeah.
Yeah,
And
about 350.
Okay, what we were trying to do with the work, I'm also going to thank Commissioner Savas for this, was really to get this rolled out when we didn't have the same level of resources as the other counties, either with CARES, particularly with CARES Act. We are a different county. We've got more rural, urban, suburban, frontier. We've got a larger area to cover in so many ways. And we have to take into account our urban area as well as our rural area. And I think this is a step in the right direction to take these dollars, as an advance from Metro. And it appears as if, because of the work Commissioner Savas has done with the financing, that we are on a road, I think, to long-term sustainability, which is really what we were trying to get at as a county. And that is to get a sense of what the revenue stream was longer term, so we could roll this out and we could keep it sustainable long term. I think that is a value that this county has always had since I've been here. And I'm very pleased to see the dollars going in that direction. So that's the end of my comments. And I know Commissioner Savas, do you want to say something? And then Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Shaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Schrader. Yeah, I'm good to go today. It's unfortunate it's taken so long, and not by fault of our staff at all. It's just the processes, but I think it's important to note that, Clackamas County, or frankly, the people we serve out there, have been kind of compromised in a sense that the error in the filing for the tax requirements by Metro and others were delayed a year. So we're not actually starting to anticipate that what we thought would be happening in July 1st, as far as the amount of money will now be present July 1st or a little bit sooner of this year, which is good. On the financing part, to kickstart, to jumpstart, to prime the pump, if you will, whichever term you want to use, we knew that we'd be at a critical juncture at this point to carry on and maintain the services we committed to. So this point of approving and asking for the $5 million advance has been contingent upon the Metro agreement that we've been working on for almost a year, it seems, but we got that approved in middle of January this year, finally. Thank you to all the staff that worked on that throughout Clackamas County, all the attorneys, and with all the other counties. It was a big lift. It was a reasonable lift to get those agreements signed. So now that we've jumped that hurdle, and Metro, again, contingent upon that, they would advance us the next 5. So I'm totally supportive of doing that. And I want to again thank our staff, Rod, others, past work of Jill Smith and others in getting this program out. We need to get this, not only maintain the services we got, but bring in all the other staff so we can ramp up and be ready for that larger amount of money that we anticipate here in the coming months. So very supportive, and I'm happy to make a motion if needed.
Okay, I appreciate that. Do I have, I can't see hands, so Nancy.
Yes, we have Commissioner Shull and then Commissioner Fisher.
Okay, go for it, Commissioner Shaw, and then Commissioner.
Yes, thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Vahid. I agree. We're going to need this $5 million to keep going in the near term. But what I want to bring to your attention, I know you're already tracking on it. Be reminded of the success of our Veterans Village. And now in Portland, after many years of working with housing issues, Councilman Ryan in Portland is working on his streets to stability, safe rest villages. And what are they? They're built on the same paradigm as our Veterans Village. I know, Rod, you are working on a briefing on alternate structures for housing. But I cannot express enough the importance of shifting away from our current solutions to housing and to a more sustainable long-term, like Commissioner Schrader said, sustainable long-term solutions that we're going to be able to afford. Okay, so please keep that in mind. I agree with the need for the $5 million now, but we need to shift over to something more sustainable, more affordable, where we can help even more people at less cost per person. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw, and Commissioner Fisher, you get to bring us home.
Well, I have a few questions. So Vahid, thank you for this briefing and for this awesome memo. I so appreciate it. Questions, when I look at the graph, figure 1, LIP goals progress with additional 5 million advance. Just tell me if I'm reading this correctly. So we have a goal of, that's on the very far right, is what our goals are for our local implementation plan. And then the middle column is with this 5 million advance, that will tell us what we will be able to achieve towards those goals. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then there are some that we are not doing so well with. And one, if I'm reading this right, so we're doing better than anticipated for case management, which is very good. We are not doing as well for short-term rental assistance. We're on par for eviction prevention. We're better than expected for housing navigation. Wait, no, we're under. Wait, no, I'm confused. We're under for housing navigation. Is that right?
Yes.
So can you just talk a little bit about that? And I guess in the frame of my concern has been, when you look at revenue forecast, my concern has been that there will be just a flood of money after people pay their taxes this April, and we are going to be sitting on so much money that we have not, I guess, urgently enough built the infrastructure for. So I'm looking at that and I'm wondering, big picture, if there's more of an advance that would be useful right now in order to better meet our goals. That's a pretty loaded question, but I think you can.
Well, and let me kind of take the first part, Commissioner Fisher, about the graph and the goals and kind of why progress here and not there. So the short-term rent assistance was not prioritized in this exercise of sort of, if we fiddle the dials with more money and can contract more services, where can we achieve the most impact? The reason that we didn't really move the dial up significantly in the short-term rent assistance area as opposed to other areas is that there has been a lot of short-term rent assistance available through the Emergency Rent Assistance Program and other federal programs, ESG programs. So there's been quite a lot of money going through the county and the state to provide support to folks who just need a little bit of rent assistance to stay in their housing. And given that this program's focus is on the most vulnerable folks with long histories of homelessness, that's where we're prioritizing and focusing those interventions, right? So so that's to sort of speak to that piece. Housing navigation, there's a little bit of what might look like a mismatch where there's 250 long-term rent assistance vouchers issued in our projected progress and in our LIP year one goal, and 152 housing navigation and placements. That's largely due to the fact that one of our first priorities, as in the plan and in response to the uncertainties with funding that Commissioner Savas spoke about that we confronted last May, is that we had a lot of households in short-term supported housing that their rent assistance was for a limited term. The Metro 300 program that we exceeded our goals for and housed more than 80 households with that was for a year of rent assistance. And so the Housing Authority, our team, and our regional long-term rent assistance partners in our team have moved everyone who received a Metro 300 short-term rental assistance onto long-term support. So they didn't need to be navigated into new housing. We simply picked up the rent support with this new program. So that's just kind of putting the funding where it really is critically needed to maximize the expansion of permanent supportive housing, which again is the solution to chronic homelessness, right, is long-term housing and supportive services, as well as emergency shelter and outreach to really be able to enable us to get folks connected immediately to the system of care in as broad a geographically equitable way as we can. I think that the question about more funding is I think maybe that's more of a commission question than it is a staff question. I don't know if I'm punting, but if the question is, would it be advisable to ask for a larger advance than 5 million? I think that's a matter for you all to consider. And if that is something that you'd like us to respond to in terms of what would that mean or what would that accomplish, then we can come back and provide more information. But I am in my role here is to provide information to the board to make decisions and not to be an advocate.
Okay, but what I'm hearing you say is that with the funding, with this 5 million advance, we are on par to meet the goals that we set out in our local implementation plan, because you've provided explanation for those two areas that look like we were lacking. So that is great news. Thank you for that. Fahid, you guys have done remarkable work. I'm just so impressed with the work. And then my only other question, I don't know who can answer this. This is probably an Elizabeth question. What is our projected revenue that's going to be coming in the last quarter? Has that changed? What are we, or maybe Nancy knows this actually. I'm looking over there at Nancy. She probably knows this as well. And how can we be, what is your recommendation? And maybe you have to come back for this if the commission is interested in this answer, but what would be your recommendation in us most effectively and responsibly getting that money out the door? I mean, it seems like with the request for qualifications, we're on par to do that because we will have the providers that have been vetted and in queue, and we are poised to do what we need to do. But is there anything else that this board needs to consider? Because I'm expecting we're going to have substantial resources from April through June of this year.
So we can pull over Elizabeth Comfort. I do not know what our projections are at this point. So it's a very good question, Commissioner. So if we can bring Elizabeth over to have that conversation, and then we could have Vahid and Rodney speak to our goals.
Yeah, and well, since Elizabeth is coming in, maybe I'll let her go first.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Well, good morning, commissioners. I wish I had great news and a crystal ball to share. Like you said earlier, we did receive our second distribution of just over $300,000 to Clackamas County. So 2 months is a good trend. I do anticipate to increase at the end of this fiscal year, but what they will result in, I do not know at this time. But we're very optimistic, the revenue's coming in, but how much and the timing is yet to be seen. And this is our first year with this type of tax, and so this is all an adventure we're on, so we'll have to wait and see.
So Elizabeth, just a follow-up. Is there any correlation with the forecast at the state level for the additional income tax revenue that is expected with what we can anticipate with this income tax?
Yeah, you're spot on, and that's why they're very optimistic in receiving the revenue is because of what they're seeing at the state. So we are correlating those together. So you're right on.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I think that the most recent sort of projection that Metro's Metro staff has given the counties, well, for Clackamas County for the current fiscal year, they have consistently stuck with their projection of something like 32.5 million for the current fiscal year, and their revised projection for next year is now 42.5 million for the following fiscal year. The question, Commissioner Fisher, about the large influx of revenue towards the end of the year, a couple of things. I mean, I think with the $5 million advance, if that is the board's decision today, then we will, of course, move immediately into our planning around that with the regional procurement and beginning to procure more services. I think that one implication that may need to come back to this board is a supplementary budget, a budget amendment or something like this. I'm not a budgetologist, so I see Elizabeth nodding, so I think I've gotten those words right, to account for the additional expenditures above the $10 million approved budget of this program. And the end of fiscal year revenue, the balance that isn't committed to contracted services in this fiscal year will provide the cash flow to initiate and maintain services starting in the next fiscal year. So that will really put us in a good spot to sustain an expansion of programs.
Oh, good. So we are really building the infrastructure with this additional 5 million, of which we can do supplemental budgets to increase those contracts to reach more capacity. Is that a good translation? Okay, well, that is excellent news. Thank you, Vahid. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Fahid, as well. And I really want to thank Elizabeth Comfort, who came on, because, there's Metro's projections. However, we have our own finance department, and it is very critically important that we have such good financial folks working for us so we can make sure that we maintain the stability and really roll this out in a very prudent way. My hope is that Metro's projections are going to be on target, hopefully, but it remains to be seen. But I am more than willing to keep my fingers crossed and again work with our own finance folks as we roll this money out to help the most vulnerable in our society. So thank you, Elizabeth. You were instrumental in helping us and actually looking at the trend. As you said, we have a 2-month trend. Continuing to look at that trend is really going to give us more clarity and far more certainty, which is what we need to have during these challenging times. So you're the best. And thank you, Fahid, and thank you, Farad, for all your work. And with that, if there are no more comments.
So I'm sorry, Commissioner, we do have Commissioner Savas who has his hand raised.
All right, go for it, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the question about more revenue, as I've shared with you before, I've been working closely with Metro Councilor Christine Lewis in particular, and also their staff. So when we met with them in August, we talked about the projections and the cash flow. And I think even reflecting back on that discussion and looking at the revenue stream that we experienced here in January and February, I think even then that was probably not a surprise to me, but perhaps a surprise to everyone or a lot of folks. But in reality, what I do agree on, I think that come May or June, we are going to see significantly more dollars come in. And I agree, we need to be able to ramp up. But what I'm also hearing from our neighboring counties and colleagues is that staffing is the largest issue they all have. And they are still, even with the CARES Act dollars they received, which we did not, they are still struggling with staffing. So we need to ramp that up as aggressively as we can. With regards to asking for more money, I did actually ask that question to Christine Lewis, Metro Councilor. And she said it's capped at 5. That was the limit. But if we were able to demonstrate that we were able to put that to good use quickly, that there would not be a problem in asking for additional. So I think it's 5 steps of 5. And if we have, again, if we can demonstrate the need and the fact that we've expended it, I think they would be open to that. So that's the answer to that question. And with that, I move we approve the asking Metro for the next advance of $5 million.
Second.
Okay.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Savas. I seconded it as well, but I'm going to say it's been seconded by Commissioner Fisher. So let's call the poll. We're going to.
Vice Chair, did you want to call for any further discussion? It looks like Commissioner Fisher has her hand up.
That usually when I finally get to this point, I'm like, let's just go for it. Any further discussion, anyone?
Yeah, I appreciate what Commissioner Savas said. I wasn't aware of that discussion. And so I'm just wondering and I'm looking at, as you can see everyone, looking at Vahid, looking at Paul. Paul, do we want to look at asking staff what that would look like if we had additional vans before June?
Well, in all respect to Rod and Vahid, I even had a conversation with Vahid, not Vahid, but Rod yesterday. And I think we really need to look hard and find out what the realities are as far as hiring and procurement, bringing those people on. So if they want to come back with something that they think they can achieve, I'm open to them coming back to us with a plan if they can more aggressively bring on people. But I think that's not just government that's having that problem. It's every employer is having a problem bringing on people. So whatever we can do aggressively, I support.
Yeah, I do too. So I don't know if we get a head nod from Commissioner Schrader and Commissioner Scholl, but that would help staff give us some direction.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. All right, on to the poll.
Anything else? Yes. Chair Schrader will call the poll. Thank you very much. Okay.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Martha Schrader.
Hallelujah. Aye. Okay.
So, Chair, I do have a clarifying question on that. So who is going to be making that request to Metro? Elizabeth, will that go through, will you work with HAC to do that, or how does that work?
Thank you for that, Nancy.
Yeah, I can certainly send a request. I'll need minutes from this meeting as our supporting documentation that the board has requested these funds.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'll work with Vahid and Rod on any additional information.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that, Nancy. I really appreciate that. So next, we have the BCC business meeting agenda review for March 3rd.
Actually, we have the AOC Board of Directors retreat, a discussion, which is on March 15th.
And I wonder where I am on my, well, go ahead.
Okay, so yes, so we are bringing this forward. There's the AOC Board of Directors retreat, which is on March 15th, which of course is a Tuesday. And I believe that there are 3 people that might, from the commissioners that are on that Board of Directors. So we have a couple of decision points here. Do we want to discuss who is going to be attending the AOC Board of Directors retreat? Or do we need to cancel that meeting if we won't have a quorum here on the 15th? So I don't know, Commissioner Schrader, if you have anything else that you need to add.
I would like to attend the board meeting. I'm still being asked to be involved in various areas. So unless anyone else would really like to go, we'd still have a quorum if one of us was gone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So colleagues, do I have a go-ahead to go to that retreat on the 15th?
Adios,
Martha. Commissioner Shaw. Okay. Yeah, yes.
Adios. Have a good trip.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Sapp, I'm okay with you and Mr. Fisher. I've been working with Gina Nickel on a number of processes, and I've been working with the community county solutions team with on housing issues. So I'd really like to kind of keep that front and center at their AOC retreat at this point. So, okay, is it all right?
Commissioner Fisher has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, so I haven't seen an agenda for that retreat, but I mean, who's all on the board for AOC? I know Commissioner Scholl is, I am, Commissioner Schroeder, you are. Paul, are you on the board at this time?
I'm on the legislative board.
The legislative board. So I'm very involved with AOC as well, with the leadership with the Human Services Committee. And I would probably feel like I would like to attend that as well. I know that might put a kink in us. I don't know what business we have on that Tuesday, or how long the retreat is. I know I have it all. I have on my calendar. It's all blocked off the whole day. Do you know, Commissioner Schrader?
I'm assuming it is a full day retreat, and rather than make a decision now, then why don't we just assume that one of us will be there, or possibly two, but let's take a look at what's going on to see what we would miss that week. Okay. We can take it from there.
Okay.
Does that
So
sound, Nancy?
Yes,
Yeah.
so that means we will make a final decision on the 8th, which is a week from today. When you look at the agenda, all of you have that chance to look at the agenda. Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll
give us information we need in order to make a more cogent decision. That would be great. Okay, so Nancy, now are we at the business meeting agenda review?
We are at the business agenda. Thank you very much. So for Thursday, March 3rd, our business meeting will be at 10 a.m. We have the Clackamas County Development Agency public hearing for a resolution there. We have the consent agenda. And then we also, for finance, will have approval of a supplemental budget resolution, which is less than 10%. Public communication, county administrator update, and then commissioner's communication. Is everyone good with that?
Thumbs up, everyone? Okay, good.
Perfect,
So,
thank you.
Hey, and I'm looking at the time. We're actually doing pretty well today, folks. So commissioner communications, who would like to go first? All right, Commissioner.
Yeah, Martha, I don't have anything for you today. I'm going to hold my comments to the business meeting on Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Shull. Commissioner Fisher, have you got anything you'd like to add for commissioner communication? Nope. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, thank you. Just as you probably all are aware, we're all watching as the governor and the OHA have moved up the not the deadline, but the date for lifting the mask requirements in Oregon. And yesterday that was moved up from the 19th of March to the 12th of March. I think it would, whether it's an action we take today or we do it in coordination with the administrator and the chair, but I would suggest that we go to in-person meetings no later than March 12th at this point, to be consistent with that. I think it would be, I think perceived or perhaps harmful otherwise if we didn't open up to in-person meetings. So I will just say that I think there's a pent-up demand, so to speak, for people wanting to, number one, work together. Number two, pent-up demand for folks to come and chat with us. And I think that some people are not comfortable doing that or have the means to do that virtually. So I would just want to make sure we're prepared for that. But again, I really think it's imperative that we open up no later than March 12th.
Thank you for getting that on the record. Commissioner Schultz giving us a thumbs up. I know that we'll have to wait for Chair Smith to come. And we'll have a discussion about that. But yeah, I, for one, am ready to, be nice to get back together and be here in the office and make things happen that way. So, all right. Is there any other business? Seeing none. Nancy?
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fisher has her hand up, and then I do have one thing I would like to announce. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that we are meeting virtually, not for COVID reasons, but for waiting for a safety plan to be put in place. And so we've been meeting through COVID up until January 13th. And I would really like to have that discussion about what our safety plan is and make sure those things are in place. And I miss meeting in person a lot. I really want us to get back as soon as possible. In fact, I want the mask mandate also to be done right now. It's just like, I'm so ready for that to be done. I can't believe we're waiting for March 12th. It's like, oh my goodness. Anyway, those are just my editorial comments.
Okay, and my battery is about to go. So Nancy, you want to make one?
Okay, real quickly. So we've been hearing from County Council that we probably should pull both number 1 and 2 from the consent agenda. I just want to say that publicly. So we will be pulling 1 and 2. And then I think, Commissioner Shull, did you have one more thing you had your hand up briefly?
Well, I just wanted to say, I have no concerns about security because it's my understanding that Commissioner Schrader knows karate. Okay, I'm not afraid.
Well, as Commissioner Schrader's doing karate, I have been doing fight exercise with punches and undercuts. And so I think between Commissioner Schrader and I, we could take on any potential threat.
I can guarantee it won't come to that. People get upset, but we will work to remain calm and get our meetings pulled together. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm looking forward to giving the gavel back as soon as possible. But we are adjourned. Okay.